Yeah,
Oh
buddy.
man.
Moose. July 8th, 2022. I got Dennis. I got Moose. It's the SMT podcast. 8 p.m. at the time of this live stream. We're broadcasting. I see RF Waves in the house. I see Ohio Rail Fan is here. Mark is in the house. Man, it's been a busy week. I don't know if you guys have watched all the content that I've put out this week, but it's been really busy for the network upgrades in the CLE, man. I mean, I've taken photos, I've talked to tower crews, I've been in cabinets, I've done video footage. I've been tracking things going back and forth to all these different sites. It's super busy in the CLE, man.
I mean, that's what we like to see, though, right?
That's the thing, Dennis. Like, that's great for me, and sometimes I get kind of like the malcontent viewer who's like, "Dang, man, I don't see any of this," and I feel bad because here I am celebrating the upgrades, the carrier's spending the money, and then it's not in every place, So it's kind of like, the good and the bad of networking, I suppose. Different, budgets for different cities. But what's up with you guys, man? How you been?
I've been doing good. Nothing too crazy, nothing too new. Just had a pretty cool podcast yesterday. That was a lot of fun. Where we ended up ending it by talking about Chipotle versus Qdoba.
Yeah, that's a horrible conversation to have, I think, when you're hungry, because it's just gonna make you more hungry. And you guys usually do your podcast like right around dinner time, so you'd be #replay crew and #ravioli gang.
Yeah, but what about Moose? He's mysterious, man. It feels like I see him less and
Oh,
less.
dude.
I feel like Moose is always lurking in the shadows, acechando en las sombras. But he's there.
I love it. The flavor's coming out, dog. The flavor's coming out.
Yasmin wants to say hello. Go ahead, Yasmin.
Hi.
She's here.
Hello.
Yeah, she's gonna be hanging out in the cut, laying in the cut like Neosporin, chilling with me down here in the lower level.
Right. Jesus.
Love you. We love you.
Dude, by the way, did we ever do predictions for the quarter? How the quarter two, Q2 went?
Moose, do you want to do that either Sunday or Monday night for
We
a show?
got to do it. We got to do it. Yeah, we got to do it.
Because I got some notes and stuff of things I want to touch on, and
yeah,
I definitely think it's due. Dennis, are you in?
Yeah, I'm down.
All right, then let's do it Monday. Monday in the evening, Moose, if you're available, we can do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. I mean, I'm very curious to know what Verizon's is going to be, because all indications are that it's going to be terrible.
I am going to go out on a limb and say that everyone is going to be sad when it comes to these quarterly earning reports, because I think all the carriers, while some might come out as bigger winners than others, I think all of them are going to be looking kind of rough from a revenue standpoint, because there's not a lot going on right now. Like, new phones are on the horizon, and new phones are typically the time where we see the most growth and actual proper net adds. So that's usually when we see a lot of the traction, and this is sort of like a slow spot for them. You know what I mean?
So you're expecting like a back end of the Q3 to pick up, and then Q4 being like, balls to the wall or whatever?
Yeah, Q3 and Q4 I see being balls to the wall. These first two quarters, especially with everything going on, I kind of see being a little more lackluster.
What do you think, Moose? What are you expecting for Q2? Any carrier is going to shine? You think there's going to be more positive momentum than what maybe the sentiment is from Dennis?
Well, we also have to remember that there's a lot of refresh cycles with the enterprise side, right? So a lot of companies during Q2, Q3, they get the bulk of their refresh done during these two quarters. They actually don't order, or actually, I shouldn't say they don't order. They can't get enough inventory in Q4 because everything is taken over by the consumers.
Consumer, yep.
Exactly.
The retail pricing is very good. They like to make their money during that season.
Exactly. So, right, when you're doing like a wholesale account, buying iPhone 12s, buying iPhone 13s in mass, you want to get them as cheap and as consistently as possible. During Q4, they can barely get a couple hundred per month, right? Because there's so many supply constraints, right? But this quarter, Q2, I'm not anticipating that it's going to be bad for T-Mobile or AT&T. I'm actually going to be very surprised how bad it's going to be for Verizon. All indications.
I think you're right, Moose. My expectations for Verizon are bleak, and I'm just looking at what they're doing. Carriers what they say and carriers what they do, two different things. I always tell people, quote me on that, take that to the bank. We're seeing Verizon doing things very unusual, uncharacteristic of them, but they're not doing it right. You know what I mean? They're not really true promotions. They're not really truly aggressively attacking competitive offers. It's like one foot in, one foot out with like $10 loyalty discounts, a small loyalty discount one time during business transactions to close out deals. That's not going to get it done. It won't sustain the quarter. You know what I mean, Moose?
Right. And
So
also,
I think that's an indication that they're going to lag.
And also, we're still waiting on more information from the Next Plus, right? It was supposed to be launched by now, but it's been delayed. Why? Why is it delayed? The Verizon Next Plus?
Yeah, can you clarify? Is that the streaming thing?
Yeah, that's kind of it's on the back burner. We haven't heard anything, and it probably should have been out by now.
Exactly. Remember, it was announced in February, March timeframe. Everybody was thinking that it was going to take at least 3 months, right, for them to get all the partnerships correctly worked out, etc. And because then they could pivot away from the Disney bundle, right? Because they are hurting because of the Disney bundle, right? So it's like one of those things where what's going on with Verizon right now?
Verizon's basically in a situation like AT&T was whenever they got done collecting DirecTV, which is they're having an identity crisis. On one hand, Verizon wants to charge a premium price like they've always done, thinking it's 1996 and they're the only game in town.
Right.
But on the other hand, they want to actually be competitive. They're trying to be aggressive in the prepaid space with things like Visible as their flanker brand, scooping up TracFone. They're trying to just overall expand their net base so they can be competitive on all fronts, while also counterintuitively trying to drive up ARPU even higher on their postpaid subs. And it doesn't feel like they really have a set strategy in place or like step 1, step 2, step 3. Instead, it feels more like they're throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks.
Not going to get it done. None of it's truly effective. What you have to do, like if you're really going to make a difference in the quarter and for your business and you want to grow, you need a true growth promotion. And then you have to follow through and it has to be attractive. Yeah, I just don't know like what their expectation is to offer these nickel and dime discounts, that aren't available to all customers, aren't available, and actually if you think about it, they're not true loyalty customer discounts. Like they're not available to someone like me who has a 2017 plan account or someone who has like an OG Unlimited plan account. They're like for just the people who have the newer plans. So like, what are you really rewarding? You're rewarding the people that have your favorite plans that are your most profitable. But some of your customers don't qualify for it. What are you really doing here? I don't know. I don't see it as being effective. I've said that if they do grow, it's going to be very small amount of growth. And I think the pressure is going to be going on Hans, actually. I think at some point, if you look at 2 consecutive bad Qs, they're going to start pointing fingers and say, what are you doing wrong here? All right. Well, before we, get off in a tangent, I know we'll do a whole episode on that, but I went ahead and linked today's first article. It's in the live chat. I also put it in the show notes so you guys can refer to it. Again, for whatever reason, it just doesn't show in like the YouTube video while you're live, but it'll be there on the replay. So hashtag replay crew. Let me go ahead and do a share screen and then we can kind of cover this. And I did a video on this earlier today, so this won't be a shocker to most of you that have been watching all the content. But I do want to discuss this with the gents that are here with me today joining me on the show. All right, so it's going to be up on the screen so you guys know what we're discussing. For those of you that come into the live stream a little bit late and you're not sure like what topic we're on, this can kind of help you know what we're discussing. All right, so this is known as what I like to call it the T-Mobile 5G UC headache. it's the spectrum used for the N41, the 5G ultra capacity, as they call it, from T-Mobile. WCO is an investment firm. Specifically, that's what they do with their business. I don't think they do anything else, actually. So they buy spectrum at these auctions, and then they lease it to other mobile network operators. And they've been pretty aggressive about their indication that they want to be involved in Spectrum Auction 108. Dennis, the auction is on July 29th. Moose, how do you see this playing out? Messy, expensive, challenging, complicated. How do you see this playing out on July 29th?
So by the way, and I'm gonna go a little bit capitalistic right now because I know Dennis might be going communist a little bit,
socialism, please. Difference.
The communism is gonna come out, but I'm just joking. I'm just joking. But let me tell you this, okay? T-Mobile does not have any right to that spectrum until they buy it, straight up. They do not have any claims. There's no de facto they're going to get it forthright. There's nothing. There's nothing. They have to buy it. They have to pay. And they will have to pay.
Moose, a lot of people think that T-Mobile's going to have to bring the bag, man.
They will. But that's what I'm saying is that we've had other folks talk about it like they have to get it by default. And no, there's nothing in this world that's free. Nothing.
So everything you're saying, Moose, is true in a strictly capitalist society.
Which we are in, correct.
Which we are not. I was good.
That's good.
I was going to say there has been numerous precedents where the government has decided winners and losers based off of bailouts, based off of how things have been run, etc., 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 for the good of the order. And I feel like this is one of the circumstances where the government should, with prejudice, show extreme favoritism to T-Mobile, since they are clearly the ones who are going to provide the most benefit from acquiring this spectrum. And despite my qualms with T-Mobile's network quality as a whole, has shown a willingness to actually deploy said spectrum instead of squatting on it. We do not want to see some no-name, random firm do this just for some money. If the spectrum is going to be sold, it should be going for someone that plans to use it, not lease it. That is my take.
Dennis, I think a lot of people are going to agree with you. The Bearded Dragon was going to come on and have this discussion. He definitely wanted to mention it. And I agree with Pete on this and you as well. There's an element of, like what Moose was talking about, capitalism, right? Somebody can step in if they have the money. They followed the process of putting an application and being a part of the auction. I respect all of that because that's the process. The rules are in place. This is how it goes, right? But we have also seen the FCC mess this thing up from the get. I mean, this whole situation is because the rules and the guidelines for this spectrum has been an absolute cluster. And if you think about it, this is what Pete said. If WCO was to get involved here, right, and get all this spectrum and then lease it to T-Mobile, all that's going to do is drive up pricing, and it's only going to hurt the consumer in a sense that T-Mobile would have to pay more and not be an owner. It adds all these complications. Meanwhile, WCO is not a mobile network operator, and the spectrum should be in the hands directly operated by MNOs. I get that approach. Like, I'm with that. I totally understand. The FCC is culpable for a lot of the setup being wrong. But when the rules are the auction is A, B, C, D, all these things, and these companies follow those guidelines, I mean, they're not doing anything wrong. But I think as a consumer, Dennis, I hope that T-Mobile gets this all. I mean, they're definitely gonna have to spend to do it. There's gonna be, I mean, all indications are AT&T, Dish, and Verizon are there to muck things up and get involved.
I mean, so there's two things I want to make perfectly clear. One is I don't necessarily have a problem if AT&T acquires it to actually use it for their own network. Would I prefer to see T-Mobile have it? Of course.
Well, here's
But
why I think that's important, Dennis. Just to address that point, T-Mobile's doing fixed wireless access with this. Will AT&T do that?
I don't know. Probably not.
I would want to know. I would really want to know, because this spectrum is going to facilitate a fixed wireless access, a home internet option for a lot of people where there are white space licenses, usually rural America, where this is going to probably enable them to get a competitor for a DSL or satellite provider at 50 or 60 bucks a month auto pay. It might be 30 a month if they have wireless. I'm just saying, I like it in the hands of T-Mobile much better than any other carrier.
I agree with you 100% on that. I'm just saying that, just to be clear here, if we're going to go the capitalist route, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed. I just don't want some random firm specifically. That's like the absolute worst pinnacle of the worst case scenarios. But the
Gotcha.
second point I wanted to bring up, and this is a more important one, it's fine to be in favor of a capitalistic process for determining everything. But on the same token, if you fall in that camp, I'm just going to put it bluntly, do not complain when you see heightened costs for different goods and services. That's what happens when you end up letting one company become way too powerful and have a monopolization on a limited resource, like, say, Spectrum, for example. An alternative example to this, by the way, since we're in this current world, would be oil prices, right? Everything's privatized. The market decides what the cost is. There's no substitute for oil, right? Just like there's no substitute for this 2.5 gigahertz spectrum. Once it's gone, it's gone. So, yeah, I mean, I want T-Mobile to win. I do think it's within the FCC's right to actually take more control over this. That's their whole purpose for existing, is essentially regulating the free market so that the outcome is that every company that owns spectrum can actually use it without interference issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I look at wireless in the same way that I look at water. It's absolutely vital to the national security of our country, right? A country can't run without water. A country can't run without wireless services. I mean, if that stuff goes down or doesn't work properly, you got major issues all across the economy, both in direct ways and indirect ways. So, I don't know. Socialist Dennis 2.0.
Moose, follow up. Give us your closing.
So I actually think that with more spectrum, carriers might be inclined to do more with that spectrum, right? Because obviously their current holdings are not enough. Like, for example, in the AT&T case, right? If AT&T had the same amount of spectrum as Verizon or T-Mobile, they could be enticed to say, hey, we have excess spectrum, excess capacity. Let's start utilizing this for fixed wireless as well. See how many people get it.
Well, I'm going to push back a little bit. How about in certain places they could get additional spectrum if they actually deploy it and build it? They would just have to facilitate a fixed wireless option in places with DSL where they don't offer their DSL. Like Moose, there are Uverse locations where they are literally decommissioning the DSL and they're not replacing it with fiber. I would force the issue and I would mandate and obligate it so that AT&T would have to replace those DSL areas with a fixed wireless access option or fiber. That would be the only way they'd be allowed in on new spectrum, like beyond what would be normally auctioned, right? So like you're saying, incentivize, entice, attract to give them more spectrum. Well, they've got to do something with it that we want as a people. We have to start enabling the consumer. Like everybody wants to make this like friend of the show, Roger Edner, right? Always giving us the true angle of the business owner, the operator. At some point, I'm still through and through a customer, and I still want to see other customers getting competitive options. I mean, some people don't have an option. They get one. That's not an option. You only have one choice. It's not even a choice, right? You have to use it. So that would be my thing. AT&T, oh, you're cool with doing fixed wireless access? All right, you're going to have to do it where you're not upgrading your Uverse, and that's the only way you're getting involved. Otherwise, this is going to T-Mobile because they're enticed. They're motivated to do it. I don't have to tell T-Mobile to do fixed wireless. They are doing it. right? It's their business model. It's their growth vector.
So let me ask you this. If they buy the licensing in areas where they don't have fiber, you think that's going to be an indication right there?
You wouldn't have to have fiber, Moose. You could pull off the microwave. I mean, you would have to have fiber to certain sites, but you can daisy chain all types of microwave solutions. I mean, if you have 40 to 80 megahertz of 2.5, what do you need for backhaul, Moose? 300, 500 meg? You don't need 10 gig fiber to every site. Would you agree? Moose?
Is he thinking, or did we lose him?
I wonder if the connection is falling out for him. What do you think, Dennis?
I agree with you. You don't need 10 gig fiber.
Sorry, I got a call. I'll be right back. I got a call. Hold on.
You're good. I agree with you. You don't need 10 gig fiber to every site. However, I would say at a minimum in this age, you do need at least gigabit.
I'm just thinking there's options. There's solutions. There's innovations that can happen, and they have to be explored. I know it's like cost cutting, and everybody wants to do ROI and evaluate and all that, but I'm just...
Well, I think the more important thing here, and this is going to touch on like sort of America as a whole, right? Like America, we as Americans, companies, right, that crop up and become successful, they become successful because they actually try to innovate and tackle a problem in a creative way to solve the issue. They don't just stand there and they're like, it is what it is, and so it shall be. They always find a way to work around and make it happen. And those companies that do so tend to be the innovators that become the next Googles, the Netflix, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
In the same way, or I guess I should say, telecom, unlike those industries, really hasn't had to do that because there was never really competition in that space because of the nature of the business. And so the only real way to kind of force that to happen is to essentially have government step in and be like, look, this thing you've been doing for like the last 30 years ain't gonna fly no more. Here are the rules. This is us giving you real motivation to actually use X, Y, and Z spectrum. And if you don't, you get in trouble. Case in point, look at how AT&T right now is having to deploy a buttload of fiber in specific states where they decided to get aggressive after AT&T just pocketed money and they actually got their comeuppance from it. So not only do they have to deploy the fiber, but now they're having to expand it into even larger locations. And the money that they took as a fine is going towards like those localized states form of like affordable connectivity program. So,
all right, good stuff, Dennis. Good points. Taking the money and running, right? AT&T and Verizon special.
Oh, man.
All right, let's go to this next story. Link is in the description. 70,000 Starlink messages flood the FCC against Dish's 12 gigahertz 5G plan. All right, we got a little bit of political pushing here. This is Monica Alvin, Fierce Wireless. If you guys want to check out the article, link in the live chat and in the show notes. More than 70,000 messages have flooded the FCC's public comment system. The mission to protect Starlink's satellite system from a plan by Dish to use the 12 gigahertz band for 5G. What do you think, Dennis? In your opinion, do you like seeing some of the 12 gigahertz going to 5G? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so me too. I want to see the 12 gigahertz broken up. I want to see some kind of a division of it, divvy it up so that way, satellite can continue to do something good with it where it's needed, where it's practical. And then terrestrial, I think we need more spectrum, and the mobile network operators are building. So I say we support them. Dish did not immediately respond to a request for a comment based on the article, but it says here the FCC should be focused on expanding connectivity to Americans, especially those without service or with poor service. Should not be focused on changing the rules to satisfy speculative and poorly defined technologies and individuals who have no clear plans to help close the digital divide. I want to pick this apart a little bit, all right, Dennis?
Sure.
All right, the first part. The FCC should be focused on expanding connectivity to Americans. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's correct. Especially those without service or with poor service. Dennis, you and me are on the same page. We want to see people get connected, right? Internet's important.
Right.
Okay. The second part I have a problem with. Listen to this. It should not be focused on changing the rules to satisfy speculative and poorly defined technologies. I have a problem there. What is wrong with terrestrial fixed wireless access? Why is that considered speculative and poorly defined technology?
One more time, Sneed. I'm sorry.
Why is Starlink and their internet users saying terrestrial fixed wireless is speculative and poorly defined technology?
I have no clue, because if anything is speculative and poorly defined technology, it has been satellite.
And specifically, let's talk about Starlink and how they are unable to fulfill orders, unable to create enough capacity, and they've had nothing but setbacks in launching all their different satellites for their capacity. And we're going to call fixed wireless access terrestrial speculative and poorly defined? I have to disagree.
I definitely disagree. I know we get into a lot of fights and debates over things like cable versus whatever, but I think we can both agree that fixed wireless terrestrial is always going to be better than a satellite-based option. Do we agree with that?
What the second part to this is even better. Individuals who have no clear plans to help close the digital divide. What part of the current Starlink iteration has closed the digital divide?
Literally
How many
nothing.
how many Americans, Dennis, how many Americans have a Starlink home internet system?
I'll be generous and say maybe, if we're lucky, 1 million. Maybe.
See, I don't yeah, I think it's probably like 1 million worldwide.
Maybe like 500,000 more likely.
So what part of that is so great that automatically we should be siding with Starlink and moving away from, say, for example, fixed wireless access from T-Mobile, Verizon, and Dish?
Well, I got a bigger problem here. So the digital divide, right? People are so rightly so, people are focused on the accessibility and the performance, right? These are very important things. However, the thing that tends to not get discussed as often when it comes to fixing the digital divide is the cost of entry. One of the biggest issues in the digital divide is not that people don't necessarily have an option in a lot of places, it's that they're literally priced out of said option. And Starlink, from a cost standpoint, I know it's better than HughesNet and Viasat from a pricing standpoint, but it is not doing anything to drive internet costs down. Fixed wireless, on the other hand, with Verizon's incredibly aggressive promotions as far as bundling goes, $25 for their service, and T-Mobile doing a similar thing, coming in at $50 or $30 respectively, is doing a lot more to actually provide competition and drive broadband costs down, while also seeing improved speeds from the incumbent providers, which is impacting many more people while also giving reliable, fast access to rural people that weren't served before.
So this is why I believe that the spectrum should be split. Some of it should remain for satellite operations, but not the whole thing. And some of it should be ready for 5G terrestrial fixed wireless access because they can build better terrestrial networking. The tower sites are near the end user, and then it's going to be a much more reliable, low latency experience. And the capacity is just going to be better. You know, there was a mention here from, I think it was, who was it actually? Let me scroll up. It was Goddess Hylia, and they stated it's very expensive, you know, and it is. You know, you're gonna and you mentioned it, Dennis. Like, so you're gonna get a higher latency, you're gonna get slower speeds, on more likely to be unreliable, right? Because the equipment is so far away.
It doesn't inherently have to be unreliable. In fact, one of the advantages of satellite is that as long as you have line of sight to the satellite, you're Gucci, like you're great no matter where you are, assuming that your receiver is also good. So it doesn't inherently have to be less reliable, but that tends to be the end product. Yes.
Yeah, and I still to this day, based on what I'm seeing, I will say that the Starlink looks promising, right? I'm not trying to poo-poo Starlink. I'm just saying that this needs to be split. Having the two options, satellite and fixed wireless use here for this spectrum, makes more sense than all of it going to one.
I
Because there will
actually
no doubt
disagree.
be well, Dennis, there's no doubt going to be places where they won't build the fixed wireless. The satellite would work.
Yeah, but I'm gonna disagree with you and hear me out on the why. I personally don't feel like investing in satellite is a worthwhile investment for fulfilling the typical residential consumer's need for internet. And I feel like terrestrial serves many more purposes. And as far as addressing your concern, as far as building out goes, they could just as easily add a stipulation that says, like, if you're buying this spectrum, you have to buy nationally and you have to deploy nationally to have ownership of the spectrum. And it could be like a clause that talks about the deadlines for when and where it has to be built out on. And of course, you could have zones that say, like, don't build here because of X, Y, and Z reasons, or whatever. But you could easily have some stipulations that force whoever buys that spectrum to have to deploy it.
Hey, big shout out to Ohio Rail fan. Appreciate that super chat, man. Appreciate the dono. Thanks for supporting the channel. And we appreciate all that you do, bud. Thank you. Big supporter of the channel and the Patreon as well. All right, good stuff, Dennis. I know so I'm like, I want to see it split. I see the use cases for both. I don't want to see it all on one side or the other. Dennis wants to see more of it going to terrestrial.
I mean,
makes
I see the use case, Steve. Like, I want to be clear. I see the use case, but I'm also saying that it's like, what's the best way to describe this? Okay, I just thought of the perfect example. It would be like if AT&T decided to invest in upgrading their DSL so that it's kind of like over in Europe and you can get like 100 to 200 meg on DSL instead of just ripping and replacing with fiber like they've been doing. In the same way, yes, satellite for residential use can do more, especially with that 12 gigahertz spectrum, sure, but is it really the best use of the funds? And my answer is no.
Okay, so fair enough. So the angle of the last article was how like there were 70,000 individuals who chimed into the FCC comments and said, "Hey, don't let this go to 5G. We want to keep it on Starlink and satellite." Well, then here's 5G for 12 gigahertz coalition firing back at SpaceX over misinformation campaign. So here's a group that we know obviously they have an interest, right, Dennis?
Yes.
The 5G for 12 gigahertz coalition wants to see it go completely terrestrial. All right, so they're calling a misinformation campaign. In response to all those comments, a proposed rule change for the 12 gigahertz band would create harmful interference for Starlink. Okay, so they're saying there's going to be interference concerns too because of the spectrum being so similar. I guess like whatever. I'd have to look at those exact frequencies and blocks, or I don't know how they're going to actually do it. According to PC Mag, the FCC indicated 70,000 messages the first few days that SpaceX made its request. Now, SpaceX is drafting a message to legislators saying that the rule would create widespread interference with Starlink. So they're saying if you give Dish the ability to use this for fixed wireless, it's going to make the Starlink service problematic.
And that's a bunch of tomfoolery.
Oh, totally. That's a whole straight up ploy. It's the same nonsense that the FAA was sitting on for the last year.
I mean, I just want to say something that's also going to be, it's a little bit of a hot take here, but I generally don't see why people have so much faith in Starlink and Elon Musk. Like, he's a great memer. He's popular on social media. But if you actually look at the man's actions, he's one of the most ruthless, shady businessmen you can possibly deal with. I mean, just look at the fiasco with how he's trying to drive the cost down on Twitter. I don't know if you've been following that too much.
I actually just followed up on it today. He's terminating his bid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's actually going to do it. I think it's just a play to try to get the cost driven down. Otherwise, he's going to be paying Twitter a lot of money for nothing. He took on debt and sold shares.
But that would be cheaper than buying a bad company,
I guess. But all the things that he's complaining about are things that he already knew about prior to buying the deal. And let's not play like he didn't have the best lawyers possible. If this was really a concern for him, he could have had it in the fine print to save his own skin.
Yeah.
Anyway, point going back to what I mainly want to target here is that Elon Musk has not, with his private companies, actually done anything like really, really meaningful. Like Starlink looks great on paper, but no one can get it. Tesla, for example, a stock that I find to be very overvalued, does not only do they not make what I would call good cars, they make great tech. They're a great tech company, but the actual car itself is not revolutionarily better.
But they're not a tech company. They're a car manufacturer.
I'm saying it's the opposite. They're a tech company that happens to make cars. Their cars themselves are poorly built.
Yeah, but that's what they sell. They sell the cars.
Yes,
they don't sell the tech.
And I'm saying it's poorly built. And no, they do sell the tech with the software updates, with the self-driving and all that other fun stuff.
I can't buy the software, so they don't sell software.
You can buy the software packages.
To do what with it? To do what with it? I can't put it in another vehicle.
Oh, I see what you're going for here.
You see what? So their business is they sell cars.
Well,
everything that they put in their cars is proprietary.
Well, with that logic, then Apple is a phone company, but we know they sell software, right? They sell
services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying Tesla is like a service then, if you want to use that word. Tesla is more of a service company than happens to be a car company, if that makes sense to you. Does that make sense?
They sell cars. They have to deliver cars, right? Are their main competitors Ford, GM, Toyota, right?
I get what you're saying, but like you're kind of missing what I'm going for here with my rationale. I'm saying they happen to sell a car, but the main thing that makes that car unique versus their competitors is the software / services that they sell on it. Nothing they've done with that car is really revolutionary in any sense of the word from what other competitors were doing before them.
I just think people are sick and tired of buying fuel, and they're supporting the cause because it fits the the lifestyle change that they want, which is getting away from petroleum. They're not really making good cars.
Yes, I agree. That's what I'm trying to touch on.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I got you, man. I agree with you actually. Big shout out to Steven Smith. Appreciate the super chat, my friend. Thank you for sending the dono. And I think we got a second one here. This one is from Mark. Appreciate you as well, sir. Hippo character running at high speed, legs forming a ball-like blur. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Thanks for supporting. What else do we want to follow up here about Elon and the whole situation?
Well, my main point was that everything he's done has been half-baked. It's kind of like it's a really well-funded startup company, but it never leaves the startup phase.
Okay, so let's look at this. Starlink as a service. They are not delivering enough units. They're not delivering and serving enough people to say we really need to get behind this. What promise, right? Like they are not. They have a huge what do we want to call this? They have a huge back order log where they've already told people you might not get yours until 2023. That was 6 months ago. So has that improved?
Nope.
Has the bill of materials improved?
Nope.
Can they start selling the service cheaper and more affordably? The answer is no to all of that. There's no reason to invest extra resources, time, and effort into something that doesn't show promise. Now, if the deliveries kicked up 50% in the last 6 months, if they kicked up 30% in the last 6 months, if people were happy with the service instead of complaining how slow it is, I would be more supportive of what they were doing. And when I watch Elon, how he moves, he's got a lot of snake oil salesmen to him. Everything is based on how it fits his agenda. He says things like freedom of speech. Then what does he do? Fire like 10,000 people at the company for trying to say things about the company. See, he's the typical billionaire. You say and do the things that fit your agenda. The way things need to play out to get you where you want to go. He's no different than any other individual in business. He's no savior. He's no saint. He's just a regular business person. Yeah, he's brilliant. I get it. He's very smart. And he should be rewarded as such in terms of monetary gain. But that doesn't mean that I have to support what he's doing if I think he's wrong. So me personally, I'm less inclined to want to support Elon in these efforts if I don't see a tangible gain or a future that's very bright. I see a bright future for fixed wireless access, much brighter than Starlink, especially when I look domestically at the US. Now, internationally, Dennis, you and I know there are going to be parts of the world where there will never be any type of terrestrial fixed wireless access or fiber or DSL or copper or whatever. And that would be the only way they'd get connected. But even then and still, Dennis, what makes you think SpaceX and Starlink is going to help those people? Why? Oh, yeah, I feel like helping out the poor people of Zimbabwe. I want to give them internet. What makes you think that Starlink's going to just be so willing to do that?
Yeah, I don't. I just want to say Starlink. So, just calling it for what it is, Starlink is a situational use case that in the long term is going to be situational, and in the short term, at best, is a short term band aid to trying to resolve the overall problem that we have, not only in the US, but in other places in the world. Because, simply put, Starlink is never going to be able to achieve the level of capacity that's required to keep up with the demands that are ever increasing as our internet habits and data habits consistently change. Just putting it bluntly. And, you touched on the right thing. Literally, when you were talking about how Starlink has progressed, their cost for services went up, their inventory constraints have gotten worse. And by worse, I mean like the delays are even pushed out to like 2024 now, I believe. And nothing has gone right. Whereas with terrestrial service, we've seen very impressive gains. And if you don't want to trust the US's results, just look at other countries and see what they were able to achieve. I mean, shucks. Even places like India were able to do some pretty incredible things with terrestrial based wireless service. And the spectrum situation over there and everything else is also pretty complex due to some corruption issues and other things. They've still be able to pull off better results than what Starlink has done. So, yeah, I don't know. It sucks. Yeah.
So, I mean, and I'm back, by the way, but I still feel like it's an alternative to a lot of people. Like there was this one guy on YouTube. He was like, thank God for Starlink, because without that, I would never be able to be connected because I'm in such a remote area of the woods in Colorado. And I'm like, okay, that's great for that guy, right? What about even in a suburban area where you're in Cox territory? Jesus, and that's the only internet you can get. So, but Elon now is out of the Twitter deal. He terminated the deal today, so we'll see what the next move is for him. But the guy has so much power right now; he could do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah, but Moose, I'll say what I said before and I'll say it again. It's situational at best. It's only an alternative option if you can afford it. Like, I mean, to put it in a different way, Sneed, hypothetically speaking, pretend like you don't have AT&T Uverse again, right? Or AT&T Fiber, excuse me. Pretend like you don't have that and pretend like your only option was Cox again. And Dennis 4.0 rolls in with his DOCSIS 4.0. If I come in, but I offer my service at $300 a month as your barrier to entry, is that really an option to you?
Hey, Dennis,
No.
I got a question about this. Do you really think the Sneed man would be dealing with that, with bad internet for until 2050 if he was waiting for the Dennis 4.0 to roll in? He'd be on the Verizon 5G fixed wireless.
My point is that if Cox in this scenario is his only option and competitor X comes in with a price point that's overpriced, like $1,000 upfront cost, and it's super expensive per month, is it really an option?
No, I can't afford that. I literally can't budget $300 a month for internet.
Exactly. And Starlink is that. In the US, they're trying to help rural Americans. Rural Americans, statistically speaking, make far less money per year compared to its suburban and urban counterpart. So they don't have as much, like $110 for them is like $300 for us in suburbia. It's like that kind of difference.
Yeah.
And then if we talk about on a global scale, like Zimbabwe, $110 is literally what those people make in like a year.
Dennis, the currency in Zimbabwe and the mean wage, $110 for the average worker is what they make in 2.5 years.
Okay, even worse.
Even worse, yeah.
But again, the price is dependent on the region and area. It's not $110 everywhere.
But Moose, here's what we got to do. We got to make sure we align this properly. We can't look at this internationally. We have a responsibility to take care of home. We have to truly focus on the American customer, right? It's too hard to care about outside of ourselves. That's very difficult. So let's just look at this from a domestic offer. You know what I mean?
In general, it's too hard to look beyond the borders.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it way more dynamic, way more challenging, and we don't even know like the currency values and what that means for their mean income. You know,
weren't we going down a long rabbit hole regarding this?
Yeah.
When we were talking about a podcast topic with Starlink deploying in the Philippines, where we were discussing the amount that we expect it to be a month, and then we point out that that expectation you're marketing to maybe 3% of the population there. So, yeah. Keeping it domestic lowers the view.
Let's do this, man. Let's move on to this next part. What do you guys think of this title? No signal. The worst cellular dead zones in the U.S. It says here we just drove 10,000 miles across the country testing cellular networks. This is the PC Mag Sasha Segan joint, kind of looking at some of the dreaded locations across the country. I think I put this in the live chat so you guys can get the link there. This is all part of the best mobile networks testing for 2022. All right, let's see if we can find out what they did here. Looking for the weak areas. Okay, in the map below, blue dots are failed AT&T tests. Yellow dots are failed T-Mobile tests. Red dots are failed Verizon tests. Okay, so I don't know where this is. It says Montara State Marine Reserve. Moose, chime in, please. Do you know where Moss Beach is? San Pedro Valley County Park?
That literally looks like Northern California.
That does look like Northern California.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, look at that.
Montara, Cali. Here we go. Just south of San Francisco, the eastern half of San Mateo County is the beginning of Silicon Valley. It says here we parked at the Gray Whale Cove State Beach. The only connectivity there on any carrier was a whale song. So there's no connectivity there. And it says Apple and Facebook here. Why do you guys think this is such a problem here?
NIMBYs.
I honestly think that it's a couple of reasons. That coastline is very difficult. It's very similar to like Hawaii, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of the terrain and getting fiber directly there. But there's no excuse, right? Pacific Coast Highway goes across the entire shoreline, rocky line, whatever you want to call it, of the western. You can take it all the way to Seattle, basically, even up to British Columbia. But absolutely no excuse. Yeah.
Would you agree that the only real cell service you need on the Pacific Coast Highway is the service required to call up and get a tow truck?
Yeah, I mean,
it's a beautiful road.
A lot of people watch like YouTube, like stream a podcast, or they stream music while on a drive. It's a beautiful. But yeah, you're right. It's a beautiful road, man. Because if you're driving north, on the left is the ocean. If you're driving south, on the right's the ocean.
The last time I took it, actually, I can't get into what I was doing. Sneed would immediately get demonetized.
Go ahead, Pete.
Well, there was a substance being consumed that's legal in California, but not Utah.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Look, man. People are saying NIMBYs. People are saying scenic views. People are saying fiber being run to sites. All that a challenge. I totally agree. I would bet that most sites in California in these segments of the state are probably on microwave backhaul. Probably.
Yep. I'd be surprised if less than 95% of them were on microwave backhaul.
By the way, you know what AT&T had to do in order to get coverage in the Calabasas, Malibu, very similar terrain area of that area of what we're seeing right now on the screen? They had to do an outdoor DAS system where every single electrical pole had an antenna.
Just to
Dude,
have some semblance of coverage.
just have coverage because there's no area. There's not enough because one of the things that everybody forgets: ocean water, salt water refracts radio waves. Okay, I have seen it with my own eyes that there was an antenna on T-Mobile pointing north, from Palos Verdes, right? Very southern point of Los Angeles. And a phone connected to that antenna, and it was all the way in the Hollywood Hills area. Now, how do you think that's possible? Because the signal bounced off of the ocean into the person's handset, literally 25 miles away. It was the band 12 signal.
So Moose,
yeah.
look at the angle here. Look at the setup. Every single one of those dots represents a failed connectivity test. Here's one for Verizon. Here's several for T-Mobile. Here's several for AT&T. If you go up north, there's a lot of failed tests for Verizon. It's indiscriminate. Every single carrier is dealing with it, and they're struggling with it. So on Highway 101 or 199, you got Redwood Forest. There's no coverage. Here's San Francisco. Why is San Francisco a problem?
NIMBYs.
That doesn't even make any sense.
So, Moose, can you think of anything other than NIMBYs?
What's the NIMBYs again?
Not in my backyard.
Yeah.
Look up here. Sea Cliff has a failed test for AT&T.
I can agree.
Just east of Forest Hill, I see all the carriers having failed tests in that little park area. I don't know. It looks like park, I suppose. By the way, that's by Cal, I guess. Is that Cal, Moose?
No, that Berkeley's on the other side.
Berkeley's on the okay. So this is University of California.
That actually would be closer to University of San Francisco at the very top.
Okay. How about Twin Peaks, San Francisco? So look how many failed AT&T tests. So even the carrier who has the FirstNet contract is having hell trying to upgrade and build sites in California. Any surprise we have trouble in the Sonoran Desert in Arizona?
Yes.
Yes, because it's flat.
No, the fact that
No.
The yes is the fact we didn't acknowledge his $20 super chat from Pete Fox saying, "Good to see the gang is all here. I read ahead. Interesting that almost half the list is in Cali."
Thanks, Pete. Appreciate the super chat. And it looks like a lot of California here. It really does. This one in particular, actually. And I don't know.
I know where this is.
Okay,
I remember that this was infamous, man. And then AT&T had to put 10 cell sites in this area just to fix it in Wickenburg right there. And it's just hard to put new cell sites there. Everything needs to be brand new there.
I remember that area.
Yeah.
And again, it's great for certain substances, but you may want to be able to call 911 if you take them funny.
Never heard of Pittsburgh. I've heard of Pittsburgh.
I'm familiar with
Pittsburgh.
No.
I'm familiar with Prescott, Arizona. I have family there.
North Carolina. Let's see here.
By the way, when were these tests taken?
This year sometime. Plains, Georgia. Here's an issue for Georgia.
Oh.
Looks like just east of Sunset Hills, west of Marlboro. I never heard of these places. It's right by 80. What is that? 55, Highway 55, Highway 270, Highway 46 in here somewhere. Grants Farm, St. Louis, Missouri. You guys ever heard of it?
No.
Okay, new to me too. Let's see what the trouble is there. It says plenty of bars, but for some reason you just can't connect. It's a historic area in St. Louis. Not connection drops as much as timeouts. This can happen when towers are misconfigured, aren't connecting to the internet properly, or don't have enough capacity for the people who want to use them. Sometimes upgrading your phone helps. It lets you access new kinds of spectrum that older phones can't get on. Oh, man. This is, these places don't seem all that remote. Maybe the Sonoran Desert mention, possibly, I suppose.
It is remote.
It's extremely, like, you're going to Las Vegas if you go north, right? From Phoenix to Las Vegas, that's the route you take.
Yeah.
It's traveled a lot. It's now considered potentially a new freeway, right? Like a new interstate freeway.
Talking about I-11 out of Kingsman?
No, I thought it was I-8.
Nope.
That they're trying to extend it from Las Vegas south. But anyways,
if it was south, it would need to be an odd number, and south of Vegas, they're building out I-11.
Oh, yeah, that's what the one. Yeah, I-11. So, yeah, that's the one. They're expanding the regular highway to make it into an interstate that goes all the way up to Canada, down to Mexico from Arizona. But that Wickenburg area, man, I'm telling you, it has been notorious. I remember back in 2018, there was absolutely zero coverage from AT&T there. Now there's, it's better because if you actually look back at that website, if you look at the actual Wickenburg area, right, they added about 4 cell sites in that area. Now the idea is to cover, maximum potential coverage by putting it into like the highest possible areas and then extending the coverage as, furthest as possible, extending the CSR gain on the radio, up tilting the all the bands as much as possible.
Trying to push the signal. Yeah, but that makes for a noisy signal, and that would explain why they have so many failed connections.
It's possible. Because it's not easy, number one, to get power there, and number two, you need to get microwave backhaul.
Can they do small cells in these places, or are they against that too?
In the mountainous, you're talking about the mountainous?
No, like some of these areas that are considered to just be like a NIMBY issue.
Oh, God. You see, that's another thing, though. Not in my backyard, people. They don't even want a small cell in front of their house because it's in a light pole.
Yeah, but they build it and they integrate it, so it's like blending in.
But
some of these millimeter wave nodes from AT&T, they're so inconspicuous, and then they paint them to blend into the tower. You can't even tell they're there. They just look like light poles.
Right.
Verizon, too, with the Samsung millimeter wave, they put up this steel pole, right, and it's got a sign or a light on it, and they just put the node, and they literally build it into this little box enclosure into the pole, and they wire it, power it, fiber it, and it's good to go.
I think that, especially the very, very last ones that Sasha was testing, I think there's always going to be some configuration issues, and then the only way that you're going to be able to fix it is with some small cells, right? Or with some tower adjustments. No carrier is perfect. Even Verizon had dead zones, right? It even said that. So it's like nobody's perfect. It's going to take more time. Thankfully, though, the competition is very red hot right now, right? I can't wait to get to the topic later in the show when you mention about the C-band expansion in CLE.
Yeah, we're inching closer to that. This is the last main topic for today's show. It's on the screen. I put this in the live chat as well, I believe. All right, this last one here. JD Power, AT&T, Verizon, top business wireline providers. Moose, You can clap to that, good sir. I mean, let's talk a little bit about this, man.
Yep.
JD Power, from what I understand, the way they collect their data, from what I understand, they collect their data from users, from customers. So it's like a consumer satisfaction study. And basically, they just ask, I think, a few questions to the consumer. Are you happy with your service? Are you happy with your customer care? Are you happy with the company that you guys are using for such and such service? And it looks like AT&T and Verizon led the medium business and small business segments, 5th consecutive year in a row for AT&T, leading large enterprise. Any surprises from you guys?
No.
It says AT&T scored 872 on a 1,000 point scale. Verizon scored 865. They were second. Okay, so this is shocking. Cox was second in
What?
medium business. What the actual
Oh
hell?
my god!
I guess they're used to having no service.
Jesus.
Something is
What?
clinically wrong with these respondents. What is wrong with you people? Okay, I don't see any other specific data. It says each business segment is experiencing market forces differently. While satisfaction is higher this year among small business customers, large enterprise customers are less satisfied as they face a challenging business environment to get back to pre-pandemic status. That makes sense. I'm shocked. They actually mentioned
I
Cox
can't believe it.
Communications in this. This is crazy.
I can't believe it.
They were
Why?
like a notable mention, bro.
Why is that so hard to believe for you, Sneed?
Dennis, they are absolute garbage can residue.
For residential, but we're talking about business.
Yeah. I just don't see them as being a competent provider. It's really, really hard for me to wrap around that concept, like that exists in this universe.
I mean, Sneed, going to Dennis's point about this being Cox for business, I'm sure you've noticed the difference between T-Mobile personal and T-Mobile business.
T-Mobile business it's like personal on steroids. I think the T-Mobile like the consumer is good, but their business is like next level. I will tell you guys that from our previous use cases with AT&T Business at the bakery, we were always satisfied with them. It wasn't until I think Spectrum came in and just slaughtered AT&T's price that we ended up switching, and that was like 10 years ago. You know, we were very satisfied with the way that AT&T dealt with us as a small and medium business, or whatever they call it. I don't know, whatever it is, small business. Yeah, I didn't think Cox could do anything right.
I work with a couple offices that have Comcast for business, and they have a ISP side firewall set up for their customers, and I'm like, wow, that makes my job easier.
Sarcasm or serious?
Serious, because if I don't need to set up something to do intrusion protection or restrict ports on incoming traffic, I don't need to sit around for an extra hour and a half to lock down their network.
Fair enough. I will say, I guess this is somewhat surprising. I was a little bit surprised that Verizon was ranked so highly with small businesses. Now that I'm looking closer at it, and the reason why I say that is because Verizon's business pricing for small businesses is absolutely terrible, and I thought for sure that would have been something that maybe would have soured some of the taste from small business owners, because they're literally markedly, like, they're double the cost of Comcast business, for example. And that's an impressive feat to achieve, being double the cost.
All right, y'all. That'll do it for the main topics. Moose, what do you want to talk about, bro?
Yes, we finally made it. Oh man. Okay. Sneed,
Yes, sir.
You are the only one that I can count on to tell me what's really going on the battleground, on the field of battle, in the trenches, the front lines. Okay.
Yeah, man.
I want you to tell me what happened this week when we know that the timelines were way, oh my gosh, man. They were saying that the cell site was not going to be upgraded until November. And now you told me it was already upgraded.
Well, so this goes back a couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago,
Yep.
T-Mobile upgraded my serving cell for the SMT HQ. And it was a pretty rapid and brief stay on the site. The crew came in, it was Axiom Wireless. I spoke to the project manager, and he was very
how long it takes her to like
transparent
come
about like
chase me
the
down
upgrade,
or fall
and he was describing things like
ready to fall asleep.
And he was talking about like the build, and he was talking about the upgrades, and he told me everything. So I knew exactly what T-Mobile was doing. The upgrade took about a week. It took about a week to go live, and here it is kind of being tuned. 1 hour after the T-Mobile crew showed up from Axiom Wireless, Fordcom showed up. 1 hour, which means AT&T was set to start upgrading that site that day, but T-Mobile's crew beat them there. So what Fordcom had to do was go to another site, in the meantime, do that upgrade, and then come back to this one. Moose, we were of the impression that that tower site was on track to get upgraded by the end of November. So I was disappointed, right? I was thinking to myself, this sucks. That was going to be AT&T upgrading their site, which was really what I wanted, because I wanted to test the C-band. I know N41. I've been testing N41 for the better part of 2 years. So I wanted to test the C-band, the 3.7, the 3.45. AT&T has to go. AT&T has to come back. They come back in a week or two. Boom, they're right back. So they did a site, and then they came back to this one. I was so thrilled, Moose. That was major. That was a big thing that they came back so quick. They didn't waste any time.
So just to give you guys some context of everybody that's complaining, I don't see C-band in my area. I don't see any network upgrades, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, Pittsburgh is on the list.
I'm aware.
I have seen it. I've seen it.
I already had a stream where I saw it. I've talked about it already on the show.
I've seen it. It's going to be very nice. After what I saw from what Sneed was reporting on the ground in the trenches, we are ahead of schedule, ladies and gentlemen, by easily 4 months. I cannot believe this.
I don't doubt it, Moose. I think you're right. Though at the pace they're building in Cleveland, they're way ahead in pace.
4 months ahead of schedule. Now, this 75 million conservative, I've always thought it was conservative, okay, number one, but it is a very conservative 75 million. People are going to be shocked by the end of the year how many, pops, whatever, are actually going to be turned on.
I think it's going to hit 100 million.
I think it's going to easily hit 100 million. Yeah, I mean, I already told you, Los Angeles, they're slated for Q3, Q4, but I'm now with this, it's any Nokia market. And Los Angeles is not a Nokia market, but any Nokia market, dude, Nokia is pumping right now, man.
The Nokia supply chain has stabilized. The issue, and this is why I think that AT&T was a little hesitant to start their upgrades. I think they were reluctant to start upgrades when they didn't have enough gear to match, right, to put up. So, like, Nokia has stabilized. The first handful of sites I saw, Moose, only got 3.7 gear. Now, every single site they're going up on is getting both 3.45 and 3.7. And I spoke to the tower crew. I spoke to the gentleman, the head of the project, and he said every single site is getting both antennas and radios, DoD and C-band. And I said, what about the sites before that only got 3.7? He said, we're going back to those as soon as we have the scheduled time. So that means, Moose, they are not scared to go back up to the sites and add them, because that's probably going to take a day. You know why?
Yep.
because they already did everything and prepared the upgrade. So the
Right.
the cable's already done. The all the wiring, all the prep work is already done. So they're literally going to just take that gear up there, anchor it, attach it, and boom, it's already piped, it's already wired, it's all good.
And by
So,
the way, I wanted
Sneed,
to go ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
From the sounds of it, it seems like AT&T is, because they were able to secure both a low C-band and a high C-band antenna, not a combined one, but two separate ones, they can still do that one climb thing they like doing.
Yes.
It's good
And
to hear.
Have you seen the pictures, Pete, of how they're like positioned on top of each other?
Saw that YouTube video you did where you were circling them. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're doing 3.7 at the bottom of that anchor, that metal arm. They put the 3.7 on the lower part. They put 3.45 at the top of it. And I think the reason they're doing that is because of power levels, not so much the frequency, because it would make more sense to put the higher frequency above. Right. But it seems to me like it's the power that's the issue. It's not the frequency itself.
And also, I have an update for you, Sneed. Very popular mall, Ontario Mills, now is reporting C-band in LA area.
What city is that? LA, you said?
It's Ontario, California, but it's in the LA market. So C-band is already rolling out, man.
Oh, nice, man.
Yeah. I asked for a speed test. I would love to. I'm going to get that for you very soon here. But C-band is popping up now in SoCal. Official.
Major move, baby. All right, what I'm going to do for you guys, I'm going to do a screen share, actually. And let me see if I can just quickly show you guys. There we go. What I'm talking about here. You're not going to get a higher quality shot than this, in my opinion. That's as good as it's going to get without actually being up there. All right, so the Google Pixel 6 Pro camera is absolutely tremendous. The video isn't the greatest, but the photography is phenomenal. All right, here at the bottom, if you guys are able to kind of locate that, the bottom one is 3.7. That's regular C-band, as they call it. The top is DoD. That's 3.45 gigahertz. This metallic arm here that's anchoring the two antennas, the radios are integrated behind the antennas. They weigh about 100 pounds each, Moose. So this whole assembly of these two antennas and radios is about 200 pounds.
Wow.
If you look to the right, you will see the power. What do they call this? Like a squid or something like that, or a Medusa? I forget what the terms are. It depends on the company. It's where all the fiber and the power goes. And then to the right of that is the PCS AWS radio, and then to the right of that is the WCS radio. All those are getting upgraded except the WCS radio. That one's staying. They're getting a tri-band, low-band radio, so it'll do the three types of 700 megahertz. Band 29, band 14, band 12.
Tri-band 700.
Moose, the band 12 still had coaxial connections.
Jesus.
Oh, what's this, Sneak? Coax is never used for anything? Oh?
Yeah, it was cool when they built it 20 years ago, Dennis. The guy literally told me that he was... Okay, you see the guy with the hat? Do you guys see the hat right there, the cowboy hat?
Oh, yes, yeah. I do.
All right, so he was telling me that he built this site 20 years ago.
Jeez, 20 years ago.
Yeah, he was there. And the thing about it is, he was saying that the coaxial was there, but it wasn't in use. They just had to remove it. So, Dennis, simmer down, crouton.
Simmer down.
You thought that coaxial was being used on the site in 2022? Come on, bro.
My prediction is that DoD Spectrum will be turned on before the iPhone launch in September. I'm telling you this right now, guys.
Q3. That's official, Moose?
I'm very confident on it, man, because it all points to one thing, man. The iPhone is going to be the most powerful iPhone ever, and they want to say that they can do, 4 gigabits if they have the capacity. Something crazy.
Is it going to be the most powerful iPhone because it connects to all the N77, or is it because they just upgraded the chip incrementally?
I think it's because the chip, the radio chip from Qualcomm, which is, by the way, this might be the penultimate or the last chip from Qualcomm that they use. Because I know that the contract from Qualcomm after the lawsuit was only for 5 chips. This is the 4th chip.
Yeah, but Moose, what year was that?
Well, actually, sorry, this is the 3rd chip. The iPhone 12 was the first chip. Then the iPhone 13. Then it's going to be the iPhone 14.
Moose,
Then we have the 15 and the 16.
I would not be shocked if Qualcomm is providing chips, well, modems, to the iPhone for at least another 2 generations.
Right. The contract was 5 chips, right? But optional.
They're going to use it. They're going to use it. 100%. It's going to take them time to get up to snuff. I mean, Qualcomm's out there, bro. They're way out ahead. You know, that's the truth of the matter. I would say if they close the gap in the next 2 years, we could see a mix of a generation of iPhone that has both Qualcomm and Apple modems. You remember when they did Intel and Qualcomm back with the iPhone 10?
Yeah.
Remember, it was mixed. If you bought the AT&T or the T-Mobile version, you got an Intel modem. If you bought the Sprint, the Verizon, or the Unlocked, you got a Qualcomm modem. I think it's going to be like that, not next year, but the year after. We're going to see a mix of modems. And then the following year, they'll move away from Qualcomm completely.
And use an Apple modem?
It's going to be Apple. I mean, they bought the Intel mobile 5G business, didn't they? All the assets, all the intelligence, all the patents.
Well, Google bought THC Mobility or HTC Mobility and
THC. Come on, bruh.
Hey, I'm just saying. Sometimes companies buy others and do nothing.
Here's the hoping that Apple does do something and that it's actually a competitive product because Qualcomm really needs the competition.
They really do. I'm kind of hoping for MediaTek. Pete, friends don't let friends MediaTek, but damn, I'm really hoping that they kick it up a notch.
I'm waiting for Roger Ettner to use his contacts there to see if they're finally going to allow us to do firmware upgrades to their chips. And if they let us do firmware upgrades, then I think we need to change our stance.
So here's the thing I want to say. We did have actual competition to Qualcomm. Unfortunately, a series of unfortunate events happened, but that competition was coming from a company that was called Huawei. They were making some pretty decent system-on-a chips and had some pretty cool stuff going on before all that stuff happened.
Yeah, but Dennis, espionage, bro.
I'm aware. I'm just saying they were competition.
Yeah, but I wouldn't trust like the same situation that's happening now with the whole TikTok investigations that the senators are asking to be looked at. Anything coming from China right now, man. FBI,
well,
MI5.
That's why I said a series of unfortunate events.
No, I know, but that happened in the past. Now we're seeing even more things. But you're right though. The ideal, and remember, we've had intelligence. Sneed's been on record. We've had intelligence that since 2020, the Apple modem has been in testing. Legit, compared to the X60 modem.
Moose, it was summer 2020.
Yeah. From 2020, we've known that they were trying to see if they could get even close to the X60 at the time.
But they were
now
20% behind in terms of performance?
No. It was 8% difference.
8%.
8.
Okay.
That's close, but not good enough because you know how Apple is. They want it to be like for like.
Could you imagine if they had to tune down the Qualcomm-based modems?
They did that for the Intel generation, if you remember.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying, Dennis, is there's precedence of them powering down the modems to kind of make some kind of like equilibrium or balance in all of their models. Which is crazy. I don't want to see that again. I really don't.
Here's the thing that I am very worried about, okay? If we don't see competition within Not this iPhone, but in 2 more iPhones. So what? The iPhone 16. If the iPhone 16 doesn't have their own Intel modem, sorry, they aren't their own Apple modem, right? We have a problem because Qualcomm is going to be the de facto for who knows how long more.
I got a spicy hot take. This one, Dennis, you've inspired me for spicy hot takes. All right.
All right.
I think the Tensor chip, the next one, is going to be 90% of whatever Qualcomm does for that model year. I legit think Tensor is going to take a big step forward. It only makes sense. You know, the first gen of their chip, suspect. I get it. It's new. They've never done it before. I understand. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying that I understand the situation, the scenario. They're not going to come with any more of that weak stuff anymore. I think they're going to be within 90% of whatever Qualcomm has to offer. So the Google Pixel 7 Pro is going to be a legitimate flagship that can compete with whatever Apple or Qualcomm can produce. It's going to be right there. And I'll be happy about that, you know, because I know everybody's down on the Tensor, and a lot of people are down on some of the heating issues that we've seen in the past, and some of the tasks have been troubling, like video editing. Carlos, and myself, we've seen it. We've tested it. We've had our issues with it. Updates have helped a lot. The phone has really stabilized with the updates, the firmware and software updates. I think the next generation Google Pixel is going to step it up a notch, and I think we are going to get that competition. I do.
Sneed, I only agree with you if Qualcomm has another off year. If Qualcomm doesn't have another off year and they see another 50% gain on graphics and 30% gain on process, CPU, and all that other fun stuff, not a chance in hell.
So you're saying that Qualcomm would have to take a step back in order for the gap to close?
Yes.
Sheesh.
Not intentionally, but they'd have to have a Snapdragon 810 kind of year.
Oh geez. That chip was so bad.
Right. I'm saying it wouldn't be intentional. It would be like a yield issue where they couldn't do X, Y, and Z, so they had to do this.
Moose, you want to comment or speculate maybe how you think the next generation Tensor is going to be?
Well, I'm going to be getting the Pixel 7 here shortly. Hopefully I can do some tests on it. I mean, I'm excited, man, to see, because I really want Google to get more market share.
What was your experience with the most recent phone that you got from them?
Dude, Google still has so much to fix, man. For example, Android Auto does not represent 5G Plus or ultra wideband or any of the C band or N41 on their little indicator. That's one issue.
All that takes is an update. I'm surprised they haven't done that. That's pretty bad.
Exactly. And
to my knowledge, it's only an app update since
right. That could be done in a month's update, like a random
it could
update
be
from Google Play.
Easy update, right? In the beginning, they were getting their feet wet. There was a lot of problems, Sneed. A lot of problems in the beginning. And I feel bad because there was a lot of people that got turned off and immediately returned the device for a Samsung.
Yes.
So now they're like, I'm not going to touch this for another 2 years, maybe.
Maybe. They might never come back, Moose.
That's right.
Well, let me tell you something that kind of justifies the reason why I feel the way I do. Google has a notorious track record for leaking anytime they're really confident about a product to generate hype and stuff like that. Yeah, and I guarantee you, if they had a Tensor chip that was balls to the walls insane, I guarantee you it would see some leaked of some Geekbench scores or something like that. And
that's set up for failure, don't you think, Dennis? Setting the bar too high might lead to disappointment.
No, they've been doing that a lot recently with their Apple Watches and even at their own live events where they purposely and intentionally leak stuff. I don't feel like they're I don't feel like they're super confident on their next gen Tensor, next gen Tensor chip. I don't think it's going to be what you hope it to be, Sneed. Again, unless Qualcomm messes up.
Now, is the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro expected to be using Exynos modems again?
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be Samsung made. Yep. I don't know, man. Like, the way I'm looking at it is it's got to be better than the last one. They've invested a lot of resources, R&D into this one because they knew the other one was going to be rough. This one probably has been in the works for over a year.
Well, your rationale is slightly wrong. I remember how I said Qualcomm messing up and I referenced Snapdragon 810. It can be worse than the past one. It could have thermal issues or other issues that we
But
don't
we
know
have
about.
thermal issues on this list one.
All right, but I agree with you. It'll probably be better than this one that we have today. Will it be Qualcomm levels of performance, and specifically Qualcomm levels of performance on the wireless piece? And the short answer is no. I don't think it will be. Mainly because if that was the case, then that also means that Samsung inherently did something wildly better with their modems, and Samsung would probably start diversifying their own supply to the US and start using their own modems here with certain makes and models.
We know that is coming.
Yeah.
It's coming, but they're not doing it this year, and they're not doing it next year as far as I'm aware.
Right. Hey guys, I got a question. I want to take kind of like your pulse on this. Costs of the upcoming generations of phones. Moose, I want to start with you, good sir. The iPhone 14, 14 Pro, 14 Pro Max. Give me the entry-level costs. Base storage.
Okay. $100 more expensive. I know we've talked about this. Dennis, you can back me up on this.
Yes,
we've talked about this. Yeah, we've talked about this. Yeah, in other podcasts. There is going to be approximately a 10% increase, $100 increase. Like, that has been leaked. Prosser has talked about it. I mean, damn. I mean, we even have Bloomberg, the guy from, you know who I'm talking about. That guy from Bloomberg, he's been talking about it. Everybody's on the same page, $100, or possibly, for the higher end models, it could be even $200. Who knows? But $100 minimum.
All right, Moose, what's the sticker price on the iPhone 14?
The iPhone 14. So let me ask you this. Is the iPhone 13 right now $729 or $829? No, it's $829, right?
$829.
Yeah, $829. I think it goes all the way to $899.
Yeah.
For the base phone?
The base, yeah.
I'm thinking somewhere between $749.95 and $899.95 myself.
That's one hell of a range, Pete.
That's only no, wait. I'm off by 100. Somewhere between 750 and 800.
I'm thinking we said it's 729 right now, right? Or no, it's 829.
It's 829.
829. Okay, then I'm saying it goes to 929. Just $100.
All right, and then for the Pro, are you guys going to go just $100 above the 14?
Yeah, so $1,100.
When international carriers leak the price, because they always leak the price earlier than even the U.S. carriers, if it comes out that it is $100 more expensive, dude, it's going to be very aggressive because T-Mobile and Verizon are going to have to match $1,100 for the promotional price.
Oh, hold up. There's something we didn't talk about, by the way, and this has been pretty much confirmed by the leaks as well. This year, there's not going to be a mini. It's going to be an iPhone 14 and an iPhone 14 Plus, like base versions. We didn't talk about that, but for that iPhone
Plus, is the Plus confirmed? I remember that. It was from what's his name? It was John.
Well, it's not just John that's been reporting it. There's other people that have been reporting it. It's been confirmed.
Right.
The initial reports I heard were from him about 6 months ago.
And that puppy is going to easily be coming in at like 1,000. So maybe it's like 900 and 1,000. iPhone 14 900, and then the Plus being 1,000.
So then you got the Pro coming in at 1,100, and then you got the Pro Max at
then the Pro Max at like 1,200 for the base.
We all in agreement, guys? We think things are going to be more expensive.
They're gonna blame inflation and throw in an extra $50.
They're going to blame the Ukraine situation for raw material shortages.
Russia for
production of iPhones.
Russia and their diesel fuel in the market because it costs extra $100 to ship 1 million of them from China.
All right, so let's talk about the Google Pixel then. What do you guys got for pricing? There's going to be a 7 and a 7 Pro. What do you think? Let's start with you, Mr. Bearded Dragon.
See, pricing. I think before my trade-in and other discounts, my Pro was about 900. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. So you think it stays there? Or you think it bumps up?
I'm gonna say somewhere between 850 and 950.
Pete with the ranges, man. Sheesh. What about the 7?
$600 to $700. 600 to 700. Because I don't know with Google, Apple was trying for a $50 range for
How about
the iPhone.
How about to keep it simple because my brain's having a hard time here. You're saying $100 increase for both of them, $100 range.
No, what I'm trying to say is $50 less to $50 more. So,
okay,
go ahead,
cool.
Dennis.
Yeah, so for me, I think the base is going to be a $50 increase, and then the Pro will be a $100 increase, bringing it up to $1,000. So base $50 increase, Pro $100 increase.
Moose.
I am thinking that to stay competitive, Google would actually keep the same price.
Oh, damn.
I'm predicting that Google, to stay competitive and to stay relevant, is not going to increase pricing.
You think this helps their case to sell more phones?
Yeah, if they keep the price lower than Samsung, it's going to entice people in the Android market. Be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna think about Google versus anybody else.
Yeah, but I'm going to come in with a counterpoint, sort of pulling a Roger Etner on my head right now, putting a little hat on. People in the US don't generally buy based off of phone price, typically speaking. And if anything, they lean towards the premium phones every single year without fail. Especially because of financing. I mean, literally the Samsung phones, or excuse me, the Pixel phones have been literally free pretty much since day one and always see huge discounts because no one buys them. And I don't really think that.
Hey.
Yeah, but iPhones are free from carriers too, dude. And people want them.
I'm the antithesis of that remark.
Well, listen,
I pre-order launch day and get my new phone.
I'm just saying, if you look at the sales, look at the numbers, Pixels don't sell. I think they only make up 3% of the US market share, if I'm being generous.
Yeah.
It's literally less than what LG had before they pieced out of the market.
It's facts.
I don't think pricing here is the reason why people aren't buying Pixels. The reason why people aren't buying Pixels is because they're not good phones. Period.
I was going to bring up something that you make up a great point. I'm going to retract what I said. I think they're going to actually increase pricing, but also they're going to keep the promotions longer, right? Like the full promotion. And they're going to be giving the Pixel Buds for free if you do a pre-order, and you can even get the watch discounted. I have a feeling that they have to go all out on promotions.
If I could get a watch discounted when I pre-order it with a 7 Pro, I'm going to be getting the 7 Pro.
Hold on, I gotta push back on something, Dennis. The phones that sell in America are not the best phones. The iPhone is the best-selling phone, not because it's the best phone. It's not even close.
What?
The iPhone is not the best phone. It's the best-selling phone.
Hold up. I am actually going to disagree with you. Apple this year, without a doubt in my mind, made the best phone of the year. Android did not come bringing the heat like they normally do this year. It was a very lackluster. Actually, scratch that. I was thinking more of last year's phones. Because last year S21. But iPhone still made one of the best phones this year, if not the best. I mean, it has the best battery life, leaps and bounds better performance, fixed a lot of the issues with the 5G connectivity and refinement on that piece. The camera is great. The screen is great. We finally got a high refresh rate screen. Storage capacity is larger than ever. I mean, what is bad about the iPhone this year? Everything about it is tremendous.
There are other phones that do all those things better.
Dual eSIM support with dual standby.
That is the only thing that the iPhone does better, 100% definitively, than any other manufacturer.
S22 Ultra was great this year too, but I can't think of another phone that would even be a contender. Give me a phone that's not.
I have an iPhone 13 Pro. I have a 13 Pro Max. I have a 12 Pro. I would rather have my Pixel above all of them. Even with all of its problems. Even if it's all of its problems. And I had an S21 Plus, and that was a tremendous phone, right? And I've tested all these phones. There's nothing special about Apple's hardware, right? And you can get the same software experience on a year-old phone or a 2-year-old phone from the iPhone. So you're not saying that the iPhone 13 is special. You're saying that iOS is special if you're enjoying the services and the apps and stuff like that.
So you got it all wrong. I personally prefer Android, Sneed. You know I prefer Android, Sneed.
I'm gonna butt in with the eSIM thing. I think the Pixel 7 may be the first Android due to the Android 13 to support dual standby eSIM.
I have nothing but heating problems with my iPhones. I have app crashes on my iPhones. Twitter runs like crap on my iPhones.
Wait. What? You have app crashes on your iPhones? 100%. I haven't had an app crash since stopped using my Pixel 1 for the Pixel 3 XL.
Bro, my experience with the iOS and iPhones is not what people told me it was going to be. I've been sold on a bill of goods that were not delivered.
Wait, pause and rewind for a second. What, not the apps crashing. Say your three things. You said heating, something, and app crashes. There was something you said before.
Heating, battery, and app crashes. Like iOS problems.
Statistically, the iPhone 13 Pro Max has the best battery. It literally gets like an extra 4 hours.
I don't have trouble with the battery life on the Max. I'm talking about the battery life on the 13 Pro. The 13 Pro Max is legendary because the battery is larger.
And it's the phone that I'm saying has been the best phone of the year.
Yeah, it's not the best phone of the year.
And an app crashing.
If you're saying that the 13 Pro Max is the best phone of the year, then that means the other ones are absolute garbage. No. And it's just comparatively better.
The Galaxy S22 Ultra was also great this year. I have one, held it side by side, but the battery life on my 13 Pro Max crushes the S22 Ultra on battery life.
Yeah, totally agree. I would confirm that that's 100%
daily.
True.
And then performance-wise, app crashes, I haven't experienced any on the iPhone.
Bro, I had a problem with my iPhone. I was literally recording a video 5 minutes into it, and the camera app just failed.
I have not had that problem.
Hey, Sneed, have you found a way to fix the buzzing issue on your Pixel 6 Pro's camera?
The app updated, and it went away.
I guess that's along the lines of me saying reinstall that thing.
But it did record one video with bad buzzing.
Look at the comments, Sneed. No one's had issues with iOS.
So what do you call me, a liar?
No, I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying that you're blaming iPhone for an app crash, but I don't know what you were doing that caused or instigated this app crash, because clearly
so I gave very explicit language. My experience on iOS and the iPhone does not match what I was told I was going to get. Is that clear enough?
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not calling anyone a liar, and I'm not a liar. I'm saying that I was sold on the most always works, just works. They told me it was always going to... It's as problematic as any other phone. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay,
it is as problematic as anything else I've ever had.
Even if I were to concur with you that they both have problems, because each has their own problems, right? I'll give you a pass on that. Explain to me what's the better phone over the iPhone. It can't be the Pixel. Literally, inherently can't be the Pixel.
I reach for my Pixel 99% of the time before I reach for my iPhone. And I have the same apps installed on both of them.
Oh, I remember what it was. It was the Twitter comment, by the way. Twitter, you told me personally, ran like garbage on your Pixel. I remember you vividly arguing about that.
Not anymore. I mean, I don't know if it was like an app update or if it was OS. Like, I remember my YouTube Studio was failing on my Pixel, and I was using the iPhone for that.
Did they fix that?
And they fixed it. So now I'm back on just using the Pixel. But yeah, there was a time where using the YouTube Studio app on the Pixel was a nightmare. Dude, there was a time where my Pixel was on my desk for 2 weeks without use. And then updates happened and the Pixel got better, and then now the Pixel is really good. And
you complained on the podcast, Google listened, the world became a better place.
I don't know, man. So
by the way,
now
I wanted to ask Sneed, are we going to talk about the streaming situation where Apple Plus? Remember that link that I sent you, or did you want me to forward it to you again?
Yeah, go ahead, Moose. Send it to me, man. Just send it to the email just send it and I can pull it up. I have no problems with just the general experience of the iPhone. I just think it's more along the same lines of any other phone I've ever owned.
Yeah, I mean, all phones are going to do the same thing. I don't know.
But Dennis, they told me that it was going to be the most flawless, perfect experience. I would never have any issues. And they said it was just going to work. And it works just like everything else.
I guess my main thing here is, like, if you said Dennis S22 Ultra is my phone of choice of the year, I could actually comprehend the rationale behind that. Like,
and I think you'd be perfectly warranted of saying that the Ultra is the phone of the year. You could say that. It's an incredible, powerful, awesome experience.
But to say the Pixel, with all of its problems, that we know that it has problems, even with the software updates, still has problems with like 5G connectivity issues and everything else. To say that's the phone of the year, it makes me feel like that decision has some type of emotional sentiment and is not looking at the logic of like the statistical stats, like based off benchmarks and everything else.
So, Sneed, two things. I like Zero Cool's comment regarding iOS. The software is too restrictive and won't bring us into what we're expecting 5G to do until Apple releases an API to do so. And Archie Mobile mentions that his Windows Phone is a bad experience. It's slow and has no apps. But the Pixel technically could use the Safari browser. And I'm thinking they both have valid points.
I'm still waiting for the perfect phone. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but
there's no such thing as a quote unquote perfect phone. Even like
I have the perfect phone.
It's going to be something Linux based.
An S23 Plus
Google Play
Store Edition. Yep.
So what I was gonna say is that even the phones that I thought were the most perfect, like the S9 Plus, I still have reminiscent memories because it had a headphone jack and it was just great. Like, no phone is ever truly perfect, right? Maybe it has slow software updates, Samsung. Maybe it has terrible hardware, Pixel, or maybe it's just boring to you, iPhone. But like, there's gonna be a phone that is most well-rounded, I guess would be the word, which would be closest to your quote-unquote perfection. And right now, I would say it's the iPhone. They've been the most on time with updates. iOS has legendary updates. The hardware, objectively, in the iPhone 13 Pro Max this year has one of the best system on a chips in any phone, both graphical performance-wise, CPU performance-wise. The cameras on the iPhone are the most well-rounded cameras. I'm not saying they're the best. Like, Pixel can definitely take a better still shot picture because of Google's processing, and And Samsung can definitely take a better telephoto picture because of that awesome like super zoom that they have going on. But the iPhone nails the video recording. The iPhone still takes great still shots, and the iPhone's camera is actually supported in a bunch of apps, so it takes better pictures in things like Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter. Whereas on Android, those app developers did not take advantage of Google's API so that photos could be taken natively on the respective device. So I don't know.
I think if you record video heavily, an iPhone is a must. I stand behind that 100%. If you record, I don't know, 1, 2, or 3 videos per day, you have kids, you have a YouTube channel where you create content mobile. I think an upgraded iPhone last year, this year, it is the best option for recording video. I think it's hands down, right? If you're a content creator, I'd actually probably push you towards an iPhone too, just generally speaking. You're going to have to get a high capacity storage option though, because of the way like recording 4K demands all that storage. You're probably going to also have to get some cloud storage as well. Or you're going to be uploading to iTunes or to a computer,
Sneed, you really need that cloud storage on the iPhone, especially at the moment. If you're shooting in 8K RAW, it's going to take you like a month to transfer.
Call it 4K. Let's just call it 4K,
okay.
Right, Pete?
Yeah. 4K, it's going to take you like 2 weeks to transfer it over that crappy USB 2 cable they package with it.
Yeah, the Pixel devices don't do video well. It's average at best. The Galaxies do video much better. But I think the photography on the Pixel is point and shoot better than the Galaxy and the iPhone. There's nothing wrong with the photography on the iPhone or the Galaxy. I'm just saying that I think the point and shoot and what Google has going on with their software and their cameras, it's just second to none. But when it comes to zoom, Galaxy's got the best photography, right? So like they've got these strengths. And I think if one thing is really important to you, you technically could kind of make a decision on a few features that are very paramount. Like take, for example, what we do, right, Dennis? Multiple SIMs, eSIMs. I can only push somebody towards an iPhone. There's just no other way. Nobody else does eSIMs, multiple profiles and activations like the iPhone. So if that's important and that you've got to be able to switch and stuff, that's where I'd recommend. If somebody's like video consumption, you probably don't want an iPhone. You should probably get a Galaxy. Those are the best displays in the game.
I agree with you.
And yeah, so like if certain things are so important, you could say that they're the perfect phone for me,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with basically everything you said. In fact, some of it was repeats of what I was saying. The only thing I disagree with you about, and this is the only thing, is that you think I only disagree with you when you say that you believe the Pixel, this year's Pixel, was the best phone out of every other phone. Like I said, I can understand the Samsung pick. It objectively has some of the best hardware. Like
I think the Ultra is the best phone of the year, personally.
That's what I'm saying. The Samsung, the Galaxy.
Yeah, I think the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra it's an absolute powerhouse. You're getting the best display. Everybody consumes tons of video, right? The video recording is good. The photography is good. The zoom is stellar. Lots of power. Big battery. I don't know. I don't really see a better. I mean, I'll only entertain the 13 Pro Max. That's it. Not the 13 Pro, not the 13. Only the 13 Pro Max competes with the Ultra. That's it.
Okay, perfect. Then we're on the same page. It's a toss between the Ultra and the iPhone. That's fine. I just wasn't going to have it when you were saying the Pixel.
If the Pixel wasn't so problematic for the first like 6 months, maybe we'd have an argument I'd like to stand on. But I think that kind of takes it out of the running.
Okay. And then I still agree with Dennis, though, right, about the Samsung software issues. I mean, damn, the phone, if it was purely eSIM, wasn't even getting software updates until just eSIM.
Moose, so like we have to criticize Samsung about their whole eSIM thing. This goes back to the S20 that never got eSIM.
This is BS, exactly. So you want to talk about it, Sneeds, now that we have the time?
Sure, yeah.
Before we do that, let's shout out the super chat from Green9227 saying, Dennis, they're upgraded. Somebody upgraded the backhaul in Green's Market. Now he's getting over a gig on N41. I'm assuming he means T-Mobile, where he says there.
Well, that's what's up. That's what we like to hear.
Nice. Getting fast over there. We haven't gotten those yet in Cleveland. I haven't got a 1 gig speed test. I'm seeing like the 600s, but it's been like that for a while.
Best I've seen in my market is 700, but I haven't been looking.
Okay, so go ahead, Sneed.
Oh yeah, so Moose, you were you
Right.
wanted to discuss the was it the phone?
Well, I
The
mean,
eSIM,
the
eSIM situation, the Galaxy.
yeah, the eSIM situation on the Galaxy. I don't know if anybody knew this, but for many months since launch in February, the phone was half baked. If you enabled eSIM only, like if you didn't want a SIM card, you just activated the eSIM because eSIM was available at launch out of the box, finally, right? Because the S21 barely got it in November of 2021. A lot of people, right, did an experiment, right? They launched their phone. They got it on launch day. They got a QR code from whatever carrier. And then, right, they realized, hey, I'm not getting any software updates. It's been months. What the hell's going on? So then, lo and behold, Samsung half-baked their software. And what I mean by half-baked, I mean that literally the eSIM capabilities did not allow for the software to be updated via eSIM.
I feel like the Samsung response to a lot of these things, it just takes forever for them to move on it, Moose. It takes them a long time to fix issues. I mean, sometimes they don't even catch them. They have to be told what the problem is. You know, like they're not listening. Like somebody's got to yell at them. Like, hey,
Or
this
they'll just
problem
straight up
exists. When are we
lie.
getting a fix? You know?
Or they'll just straight up lie. I mean, I remember back when the S8 came out. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but when the S8 came out, Samsung on their website marketed UFS 3.1 storage for the regular S8 and S8 Plus. However, turns out the regular S8 did not have 3.1 storage, and the S8 Plus was like a 50-50 shot on whether or not you got it, depending on who the storage supplier
and
was.
manufacturing.
Yeah. Now the S9 was a little bit more solid, with the S9 Plus being guaranteed, but Samsung just straight up lied on their marketing until they corrected it. What only if Dennis does too? Wait, what? Wait, what RFK?
Oh, I don't know. They're talking about something else. Follow up, Moose.
So, I mean, to me, it's completely unacceptable, right? I mean, Dennis, you agree that you're shipping a product, and until people realize that, hey, you're not getting software updates, do they kind of are like, well, WTF, what's going on, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's WTF, what's going on? And I don't necessarily blame Samsung 100% with the carrier versions of the phones, because I know that's still an ongoing issue in the US. But overall, something needs to be done to rectify this. It's just not a good experience for the products. And speaking of the topic of eSIMs, how about the fact that anytime you want to switch out your SIM on Samsung, the phone totally has to reboot?
Yeah, because it does the carrier firmware.
I know, but that's a terrible way to implement it, is what I'm saying. Like,
I like hot swapping SIMs. I hot swap SIMs on my Pixel all the time to test if lines are active.
yeah, and also let's not even forget too, when it comes to eSIM, it's not even just about whether or not the phone can do it. It's also about whether or not the carriers the phone manufacturers work with the carriers to actually let it be supported. Like, let's not even forget about that aspect for a moment either. Like, aside from Verizon and T-Mobile directly, who all actually supports eSIM on, say, something like the Pixel?
Everybody. AT&T does as well.
Or
my AT&T is on eSIM on my Pixel.
But like, what about like other companies like like MVNOs and prepaid companies and stuff like that. Do any of them support eSIM on those phones?
Mint Mobile.
Mint Mobile does.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I think if you have a QR code, it will work.
Hey Sneed, you know that carrier Arctic Mobile?
Yes, sir.
They work on the Pixel over eSIM, and they're on Verizon.
Can't wait to try it. I didn't want to spoil the fun, but yeah, they do.
But by the way, special podcast sometime next week talking about Arctic Mobile experiences with me and Sneed.
Mm-hmm. All right, last one. This one's for Moose. Apple TV Plus reaches 6% market share in the U.S. Netflix loses subs.
Big time. I mean, this is big because if you scroll down, it shows the market share of the other competitors. Dude, Prime Video is about to take over Netflix.
Yeah, that's going to happen this quarter.
That's huge.
Wait. How is Paramount Plus at 4%? I have no faith in streaming subs.
Yeah.
How is Peacock not on that list is my more surprising thing. Peacock's literally given out for free to everything that has a pulse with Comcast. I'm surprised they don't have a higher
So Peacock must be 3% or less, right?
Right.
I'm saying, but how is Peacock less than Paramount?
That's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with Pete, and I'm saying why is Peacock not there is what I'm saying.
I don't know.
I mean, what do you guys think about this? I mean, HBO Max and Prime Video are taking subs from Netflix.
So, Moose, here's minus 2% for Netflix. So they were at 23. They're now at 21. Apple TV is up. HBO Max is up. They added 1%. Prime is up. Wow. Who would have thunk it, man? Netflix is about to lose their seat on the throne of the streaming kings. It's going to be Amazon Prime Video. Do you think HBO Max will overtake Amazon Prime in the next year or two?
No, because of the fact that AT&T is removing it from their inclusion of the bundles, and I feel like that was inflating a lot of their subscriber count.
Okay, so we should see a decrease over time, maybe?
I think it'll remain somewhat around that 15% mark.
How about Disney Plus? Are they stuck, or do you think they got room to grow?
Depends on what Verizon does with the Disney bundle.
I think they let it go after the contract.
Then Disney Plus will decrease.
Hulu? Same situation.
Depends on what happens with the live TV content that Hulu's pulling in. If they continue to get and be able to eke out those deals and those respective operators don't pull onto their own exclusive services, Hulu increases. If they lose content to things like Paramount Plus and Discovery Plus and all that fun stuff, I see Hulu continuing to decrease.
And by the way, this is the first quarter that I've ever seen Disney Plus put billboard advertisements, and they are also really hot on commercial advertisements for Disney Plus. So you know that when a streaming service has to do advertisements, it's because they've organically stopped growing organically, right? Now it's the people that they haven't reached yet.
Moose, what's going to happen when Apple TV gets this NFL games?
Oh, man. I mean, that's going to be big time.
That's a boost, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a boost. And NFL, by the way, Apple TV Plus is the content on there. If you haven't checked it out by now, it's some pretty damn good content. I mean, For All Mankind season 3, you know, don't want to spoil too much, but that is very good for all the nerds and scientific people out there. You know, myself. Right. I mean, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But
hey,
you know,
Steve,
yeah.
Could you go back down to that list? The ranking. With the exception of the Apple TV, I have an active subscription to all of those, and Apple TV and Paramount, and I can password share the Apple TV, and I password share the top 5. Am I a bad person?
No, everybody does it.
So I have all of them except for Paramount Plus, which I refuse to purchase. And the only reason I have Apple TV Plus is because I got another free year of it, I believe, from T-Mobile this time around.
So I refuse to pay for Paramount Plus so much. The day they took Star Trek Deep Space Nine off Netflix, I'll admit, I pirated season 7.
Yep, and I did the same thing with South Park and the Pandemic specials.
And
Yep.
by the way, I'm actually going to be subscribing to Funimation, right? The Crunchyroll purchaser, right?
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna be subscribing to that because
Wait, Dennis, why are you getting excited about this? Why?
because I'm weeaboo trash and love anime. Although Moose, you have it on the inverse side of things. It's Crunchyroll bought Funimation.
Is Crunchyroll still owned by Sony?
Yeah, Sony,
Yes.
yeah. So Sony is the parent company. But anyways, yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? Is that Funimation, Crunchyroll, right? Dragon Ball Super, the next seasons are coming out shortly, next year potentially. But point is this. It was so shocking to me that okay. I was having this conversation with Sneed. How is inflation going to affect these numbers? Like, that's big, guys. People are literally getting rid of streaming services.
Oh yeah, they're cutting spending. They're cutting budget. I mean, if someone has 5 streaming services, they're down to 2.
Well, if you think about it, Hulu and Disney are on the same bill. For me,
I mean, there's bundles and stuff, and yeah, like there's certain things that people are willing to keep. But say, for example, Pete, if somebody has 5 of these on this list, it's an easy decision if you're tightening economically.
kill the Netflix.
Financially. Yeah, you're killing 1 or 2. It's easy.
Here's the thing. Amazon Prime, I feel like it's a gimme because everybody and their mother has Amazon for shipping. You're gonna have Prime because of that. Something like Crunchyroll, I'm actually surprised is not higher on the list. I wonder if they even counted it, but that's like your one-stop shop for watching anime, and I actually continue seeing that increasing in popularity throughout the US. That continues to become more and more mainstream. Something like Disney Plus, while I don't see it ever taking over as like number one, is going to maintain some level of relevancy because of children and parents are willing to do anything for their kids type of deal.
Well, and Marvel and Star Wars and all the shows.
But the ones that are in most jeopardy in my eyes are your ones that heavily rely on live TV, so Paramount Plus. Your HBO Max is kind of rough because it's one of the more expensive streaming services of the group. And to be perfectly frank, HBO hasn't been producing any or as much original content, let's say, recently as some of the other streaming providers. And Hulu is going to be in a little bit of rough shape too, I think, unless they continue to be creative with their bundle prices and kind of deals they work out with other people. So, yeah. Did I lose you guys? Oh, sorry.
No, we're here. We're good. I'm actually going to close out the show, man. I think we covered a lot of stuff. We're 2 hours in. So,
already.
I'll tell you what, Pete, take us home.
Thank you for watching the podcast. I did notice a few super chats. I did not get all of them. I do remember Pete Fox, Green 9226 or 9227, and I think there was one earlier tonight that isn't on my history. For those of you who sat through and watched the entire thing, hashtag 2LiveCrew. If you're a mod, hashtag mod squad. If you're watching this on replay, hashtag replay crew. For those who want the funny hashtags, we got hashtag Sneed Army, hashtag Feed the Bear, hashtag Save the Bear, hashtag Let's Go Boo Boo. And Archie, Doctor Who is on HBO Max. Hook up with me after the show if you don't feel like paying for it.
Big shout out to Moose. Big shout out to Pete. Thank you. Big shout out to Dennis. Appreciate you guys. It was a great show, man. Thanks for hanging out and discussing all these topics. And let's do a Monday edition of the show. We'll do Monday Madness with Moose, and we're going to be talking about some of these upgrades that I've got some photos for, and I'll be dropping some videos over the weekend.
Sounds
All right,
like a
guys.
game plan.
Anything for the good of the order?
Monday Madness. Let's do it.
All right,
Hashtag dox it or Dennis 4.0.
Hashtag Telco Jesus. All right, guys. We out this piece.